Hello, everybody. It's William Vanna at Do What Dad Does, and today is the Geauga Lake story. It's one of my all-time favorites, and I know I get kind of happy telling these stories because I am so free from all the problems and troubles that these stories represented, and they were terrible, but I am so free, from the Indy 500 story and this one, the Geauga Lake story, and so many other troubled past stories that I'm sharing with you. And that's why I'm happy. That's what a big part of this is about, is the freedom, the joy, the rest, everything about not being in bondage and held down anymore from things of your past. And I really can take a good look at anything in my past now and understand it to the fullest degree, to the truth and reality that it is. But this Geauga Lake story is a big one, and like all these stories, when they happened earlier in my life, I couldn't see anything. I was so blind. I was so hard. My heart was insensitive. There was so much fear and control and rejection and so many problems. But I'm coming now saying, it ends up being okay because I figured it out. Now, if I never figured it out, it would continue to be very tragic and it would be terrible. But it's not. So maybe have a few laughs with me, and we'll get to crying a little bit later on some of those real heart-wrenching stories that really grab you and turn you upside down and inside out. But the Geauga Lake story is a classic in my book, and you'll see why in just a moment. But this one was back from probably the late 70s. I was born in 1964, so I was a young boy. Maybe, I was 10 years old, maybe 10, 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there. I might need a little help from my family on this one, but I was young, just a kid. I wasn't driving yet or anything like that. And this was the 70s, and Geauga Lake Amusement Park was in Aurora, Ohio, and it was an okay amusement park when we were first growing up. It eventually really grew and grew, and combined with SeaWorld on just the other side of the lake, Geauga Lake. It was a big, kind of small lake, really. But they had the water show at SeaWorld and all the acrobatic, skiers and jumps and all that. And it was nice, roller coasters and cotton candy and water stuff and all that. But in the early days, when I was very young, in the 70s, part of this story I just remembered was my dad always taking my brother and I to the park, not even to go in. And it was probably a 20 to 25, 30-minute drive, depending on traffic, kind of on the other side of town, out towards the country a little bit. And we would just go there with our dad in the car so he could count the rows of cars and estimate how good a day the park was having, because my dad had bought stock in the park in Geauga Lake called Fun Time. And Dad, I love you for it. It's funny, very funny today, but we would just drive out there, and you would sometimes take us to the fruit stand across the street and buy us a treat or something, if we were good, of course, right? Performance-oriented family back then. I actually eventually worked for that fruit stand across the street. Nice family. Another story, another day. But we would go there, and my dad would just drive down the road where the main parking lot was, and he'd have us do it too, count the rows, sometimes go back and forth. And if it got past the woods into the auxiliary parking lot, it was a great day. It was a big day, and the stock was good, and yeah, we were getting a treat that day. So that was funny. But eventually we had season passes. So the story comes to this day where my dad took us to the park, us being me, my brother Mark, and a friend. And I'm about 90% sure our friend was Dan Fecco. So hope you're doing well, Dan. You may remember this, but I certainly do. And we got to just inside the gate. It's in the picture right behind this story, that the front gate. And we get just inside the gate. We just get checked in with our passes, and we're all standing there at the main entrance. And there's two midways, or two main runways of you can go down. You can go down kind of this path towards part of the park, or you can go down this path towards the other part of the park. So it was one or the other. And there was three of us. And my dad said, okay, you guys are pretty good. I'll let you go for an hour or two, check your watch, and be back here in 2 hours. So I wanted to go like this way to the Gold Rush, and Mark and Dan wanted to go like this way towards the Ferris wheel or the rides or something, and I wanted to go this way. And we stood there and we argued back and forth, and I was holding my ground. We are going this way or nothing else. And Mark and Dan are like, let's go this way. We'll go there later. We're going to be here the whole day. Don't worry about it. My dad's like, figure it out. Come on, guys, figure it out. And I was such a young idiot. I was such a jerk. I was just said so many problems at such a young age that I just stood there and said, no, we're going this way. And Mark and Dan begged and pleaded, and come on, it's 2-1, you lose the vote, and we'll go later. And they tried everything, and I wouldn't give. And man, looking back at this, I would cry. Today I'm just trying to make it humorous, but I have cried over this story, literally. Looking back and thinking about how strong-willed I was and how just selfish and controlling and dominant and didn't want to give in to nothing. I just had to have my way in so many things. It was terrible. There was times we were playing softball, in the field behind Grandpa's house on Thomas Street, and I would hit the ball and go to first and say I was safe. And everybody on the field would say, no, you weren't. You were out. And I would stand on the base and not leave. I was just like, and they'd have to stop the game or give in. It was terrible. Terrible stuff as a youth. Just these problems I had of control and trying to be right and be accepted in somebody's eyes that I was good and I was okay. And then when I was out in the field and I had the ball and someone was running and I threw him out or I got him out, I was like, you're out. Everyone's like, no, they're safe. And I was like, no, you're out. I wouldn't give up the ball. It was terrible. These are bad stories. But again, I got out of it, so I'm happy today. But anyway, back to Geauga Lake. So we go back and forth for 5 minutes. Probably 5 minutes was long enough as a kid. Seemed like forever. And eventually my dad's like tired of standing there listening to it. And he's got to just see us on our way so we're okay. And he gets to the point where he says, look, pick a way or we're going home. I don't want to hear this. And I said, fine, then we'll go home. I was like, can you believe this? You know how nasty a kid this is, if you think about it? And Mark and Dan gave in, and it was terrible. It was not a good day. And they probably took it out on me later. I don't remember. But, I was just so messed up with control and fear and trying to be accepted and trying for somebody in my youth as a child to say, Bill, you're okay. You're a good kid. You're okay. You did it right. We like you. We're glad you're on. And I had none of that. So this is all about rejection and just the belief system that we can all agree that the belief system of just about any person on earth is formed at a very young, early age. Some say by 5 or 7 or 10 or even 12, it's too late. That you already have structured your belief system in life of what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. When this happens to you, what do you do? And I was never a fight. I have not been in a physical fight my whole life. Except there was one time I kind of beat up the neighborhood junkie, but I think he was stoned, so that wasn't really fair when I was in elementary school. But I would hide. I would just crawl in a corner and just fly out of there, just get out of there. So this was not good. This was a terrible way to grow up, and this was the core of everything I did in life and a lot of Christianity later on. But this is how far back it can go, and these are the times that if we're adults now and we're so afraid to talk about the truth and the reality of who we were, what happened, who hurt us, can we get through it? Do I have a safe place to tell this story and to come out of this and feel accepted? And usually we don't. Usually most of us as adults, we do not have a safe place to tell these stories and to tell our true feelings. There's so much fear. There's rejection. There's just a nasty combination from the devils and the enemy on warping us. And I truly believe, learned this through Theophostic ministry, that the devil, the enemy, Satan and all his principalities, that if they mess us up as a child from before birth, infant, young adult, if they can just poison us with the warped belief system on right and wrong, good, bad, God, whatever, that they can just walk away by the time we're a young adult, and we will self-destruct the rest of our lives. And I believe that's absolutely true. I lived it until I was able to get out of it. So, crazy time. The Geauga Lake story. Mark, Dan, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I was a mess, but I made it. So, that's it. See ya.